Malawi have arrested the country's vice president, Saulus Chilima, over corruption allegations. Mr. Chilima is accused of receiving $280,000 from a businessman to help secure a government contract. A statement from the anti-corruption agency said he is due in court, where he will face 6 charges related to corruption. Mr. Chilima has not yet commented on the allegations, but a local news site shared his picture arriving in court in the capital, Leonongwi. Comoros treason allegations have been stated. In the meantime, state prosecutors in Comoros have asked Ahmed Abdullah Sambi to life in prison for high treason. The 64-year-old was president between 2006 and 2011 and has been in detention since 2018 on corruption charges. He faces charges related to the alleged sale of the country's passports to stateless people living in Gulf states. He was tried in absentia after he refused to appear in court, and he is scheduled to be sentenced on the 20th of November. Meanwhile, a coup attempt has been thwarted in Sao Tome and Principe. Prime Minister Patrice Trovoada stated this in a news briefing, adding that military barracks came under attack early this morning and at least 6 people have been detained in connection to the coup. He said 4 attackers were neutralized and detained, while a former president of the National Assembly, Delphine Neves, and a former soldier were also detained in relation to the coup. The head of the Economic Community of West African States condemned the coup attempt in the Gulf of Guinea nation. President Umaro Sissoko Embalo have said on Twitter that Sao Tome and Principe is a country considered a model of parliamentary democracy in Africa. An appeal court in southern White Nile State in Sudan has invalidated a court decision that a young woman convicted of adultery be stoned to death. In June, a court in Kosti town found Miriam Terab guilty under a Sudanese law that states that a married person, male or female, be stoned to death if he or she commits adultery. Her defense lawyer told the Sudan Tribune that a court of appeal invalidated the court ruling. Ms. Abdullah said the Court of Appeal decided to return the case to the trial court and ordered it to reconsider the ruling, saying that it had not taken into consideration the guidelines of a fair trial. The trial court's decision had angered many Sudanese lawyers who sympathized with Ms. Tirab and vowed to appeal against the decision. Still in Africa, Uganda has closed schools nationwide to curb the spread of the Ebola virus that has already killed dozens of people. Education Minister Janet Museveni, who is also the wife of the Ugandan President Yoweri Museveni, made the announcement earlier this month following 23 cases across 5 schools in Kampala, which led to the death of 8 students. Some experts have expressed reservations about the school shutdown, arguing that keeping pupils contained for another 2 weeks will be a better way to halt the spread of the deadly disease, given the incubation period can last from 2 days to 3 weeks. Many of the children who attended boarding schools will be traveling long distances across the country. Uganda has confirmed 141 Ebola cases and 55 deaths so far, according to its health ministry. Turning to Europe, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky today met British Foreign Secretary James Cleverly in Kiev. During his visit, Mr. Cleverly announced new aid for Ukraine, including ambulances and support for victims of sexual violence by Russian soldiers. On his part, Mr. Zelensky said Ukraine will never forget UK's solidarity.
Never raised by Prime Minister. He is deeply in very much and really
Reports of Russian buildup on the eastern border. We just, Melinda and I were discussing that I know how important it is, the work that he has been doing and the work.
In the meantime, Russia has said Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's statement about retaking Crimea by non-military means is out of the question. Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov stated this during a press conference, adding that for Russia, this discussion over an alienation of a territory from Russia. He added that such speculations indicate once again the unpreparedness and unwillingness of the Ukrainian side to be ready to resolve the problem by non-military methods. Earlier in the day, a Russian air defense system was triggered in Crimea. Azerbaijan has called off a four-way peace meeting with Armenia. French President Emmanuel Macron and European Council head Charles Michel in Brussels on December 7th. Azerbaijan's President Ilham Aliyev made this known during a conference with international representatives in Baku, adding that his country does not want France to take part of the peace talks with Armenia. Mr. Aliyev accused the French president of attacking the former Soviet nation and accusing it of what it had not done, insisting that France should not act as a go-between. He also accused the Armenian prime minister of trying to undercut the next stage of talks by insisting France must be a broker. Fighting between Armenia and Azerbaijan flared in September in their decade-old dispute over the Nagorno-Karabakh enclave, internationally recognized as part of Azerbaijan, but largely controlled by ethnic Armenians with backings from Yerevan. You are watching Spring Global on Western Spring Television. We'll be right back after this break. Welcome back. You're still watching Western Spring Global News. In more stories, Mali's Prime Minister Shogel Mega, who suffered a stroke in August, says he has been given the green light to start working again. He said this after he was received by junta leader Assimi Goita. Colonel Abdullahi Mega, a minister and government spokesman, has been standing in as interim prime minister since August. Mr. Mega was ordered by his doctor to rest in August after months of intense accession. And in South America, Peru's left-wing president, Pedro Castillo, has accepted the resignation of the country's prime minister and close ally, Anibal Torres. Mr. Castillo announced this on a national television broadcast, thanking the prime minister for his contribution towards the development of the country. He promised to reshuffle the cabinet again amidst a lengthy battle between the country's executive and legislative branches. Mr. Torres, a staunch ally of Castillo, challenged the opposition-controlled Congress to a confidence vote last week, but Congress declined to hold such a vote, saying conditions for it had not been met. Opposition legislators have twice impeached Mr. Castillo, but failed to remove him, although they have managed to censure and fire several cabinet members. Israel's far-right Jewish party has signed a coalition agreement with former Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's Likud party. The leader of the Jewish Power Party, Mr. Ben-Gvir, disclosed this in a statement stating that the deal is a big step towards forming a fully right-wing government. The ultra-nationalist politician is known for his anti-Arab comments and has been convicted of racism and is set to become National Security Minister under the deal. It comes after Likud and its religious and far-right allies won a majority in an election earlier this month, marking a dramatic comeback for Mr. Netanyahu. France's National Assembly has backed a bid to enshrine the right to abortion in the constitution, prompted largely by increased restrictions. Elsewhere, lawmakers voted by a large majority to include a clause guaranteeing the effectiveness and equal access to the right to end pregnancy voluntarily. Left-wing lawmaker Mathilde Panot, who is behind the change, said it was to protect against the backsliding sin in the United States and Poland. But the bill will face a tough passage. Last month, the upper house, the Senate, rejected a similar proposal and is thought unlikely to back the new amendment. Right-wing parties, which dominate the Senate, argued that abortion rights are not under threat in France. A man has been arrested in India over the murder of a young woman found dead on a tropical northern Australian beach 4 years ago. The body of Toya Cordin Lee was discovered in October 2018 after what has been called a frenzied and brutal and sadistic attack. According to the Queensland Police, the suspect was arrested in Delhi by Indian officers today and is expected to face an extradition court hearing soon. The police revealed that the suspect, Singh, who was working as a nurse, left behind his job, wife, and their 3 children when he fled Australia hours after Toya's body was discovered. Ghana plans to buy oil products with gold rather than US dollars reserve in a measure aimed at stemming the weakening of its currency, the cedi, and to address the increasing living costs. Vice President Mahamudu Bawumia said the new policy will fundamentally change the balance of payments and significantly reduce the persistent depreciation of the country's currency. According to the government, the country's foreign reserves stood at around $6.6 billion at the end of September 2022, down from $9.7 billion at the end of last year. This equates to less than 3 months of import cover. The government of President Nana Akufo-Addo is under intense political pressure and is currently negotiating a relief package with the IMF. Elon Musk says Twitter will provide a general amnesty to some suspended accounts from next week. This came after he started a poll on Wednesday asking Twitter users whether accounts that had not broken the law or engaged in spam should be let back on the social media platform. Several accounts, such as that of former US President Donald Trump, have already been reinstated by Mr. Musk. The world's richest man bought Twitter for $44 billion last month. And turning to some sports stories, Qatar are on the verge of a group stage exit in their home World Cup after Senegal condemned them to a second straight loss. The Middle East side battle valiantly but will be out with a game to spare if the Netherlands avoid defeat against Ecuador later today. But African champions Senegal are up and running after a 3-1 victory. Meanwhile, Wales' first World Cup in 64 years looks set to end at the group stage after a last-ditch 2-0 defeat by Iran in Qatar. Substitute Rusby Chesney struck from 20 yards 9 minutes into stoppage time before Rami Rizaian finished off a counter-attack to seal victory for a revitalized Iran side who have renewed hope of reaching the knockout stages for the first time in their history. Wales goalkeeper Wayne Hennessy was sent off with 4 minutes of normal time remaining following a video assistant referee check for a reckless challenge on Mehdi Taremi. American rapper Kanye West has said he intends to run for US president in 2024, despite facing several scandals over his recent behavior. The star, who has legally changed his name to Ye, posted a video of his campaign logo on social media alongside the caption Ye24. He also claimed to have asked Donald Trump to be his running mate. West previously ran for president in 2020, but that campaign flopped, attracting a meager 70,000 votes. His latest claim came in a video post after West was spotted at Trump's Mar-a-Lago Golf Club earlier this week, accompanied by Nick Fuentes, a prominent white nationalist. West said his request for a running mate left the former president, who recently launched his own re-election campaign, worried.
Vice president. I think that was like lower on the list of things that caught him off guard. It was the fact that I walked in with intelligence. So Trump is really impressed with Nick Fuentes. And Nick Fuentes, unlike so many of the lawyers and so many people that he was left with on his 2020 campaign, he's actually a loyalist. When he didn't know what the lawyers is, you'll still have your lawyer list. And when all the lawyers said, forget it, Trump's done, there were loyalists running up in the White House, right? And my question would be, why, when you had the chance, did you not free the January 6ers?
Before we end Spring Global, here is a recap of our top stories. Police in Malawi have arrested the country's vice president, Saulus Chilima, over corruption allegations. And Uganda has closed schools to curb the spread of the Ebola virus that has already killed dozens of people. Israel's far-right Jewish Power Party has signed a coalition agreement with former Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's Likud party. That ends Spring Global on Western Spring Television. Don't forget to follow us on our social media handles on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter at Western Spring Television. And you can also watch us live and subscribe to our YouTube at Western Spring Television. I am Tunde Ido. Good evening.